Welcome in to Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. Got a great interview lineup today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Lamar Silver Foxes, Stephen Burris. Coach, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing well. We appreciate your time. We really do. This is you guys' first time tuning in. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains. Also, our website, movinchains.com, movinchains.com, and our podcast available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Burris was hired in March. He's been the OC at Ridgeview for the past 2 seasons. Prior to that, he coached at Conway, Socastee, and York. So, Coach, first head coaching job. How's the transition been getting in there and taking over at Lamar?
Oh man, it's been a whirlwind. But it's what you want. It's everything I could ask for. The community support has been phenomenal, from administration level all the way down to just community members, alumni association, anybody I've come in contact with out there since I've been hired has been nothing but supportive. The kids have been phenomenal in the transition, so I just can't wait to get out there and fully get started. We had a really good spring. The kids, been very receptive to everything we're trying to do as a staff. We're getting some coaches in, and we're ready to hit the ground rolling. The summer they've already gotten out of school, so they're itching to get fully, into it with the summer stuff and 7-on-7 stuff like that. But we're very excited. I'm the third coach they've had in the last 3 years, but you wouldn't be able to tell at Lamar. It's the culture there is what it is, and these kids expect to be playing deep into the playoffs. So that's what we're going to aim for, and that's what we're going to shoot for, and we're working every day to get there.
Before we get in too deep with Lamar stuff, want to learn a little bit about you, Coach. You've been at it for about 16 years as an assistant, getting this opportunity. Tell us about your coaching career, how you got started, and what the steps that I've taken to get you to this spot.
Man, 16 years, when you say that, it sounds like a long time, but the longer I'm in it, the more I realize I've got a long way to go in terms of experience. I started out Socastee High School with Coach Tim Renfro. And originally my plan was just to teach and, see how things went as a teacher my first year and kind of get acclimated to what the things that came with that job and, take my time and get into the coaching thing. I knew I wanted to coach, but I just wasn't in a hurry to do it. Coach Renfro called me and asked me to come and meet with him. And I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure of meeting Coach Tim Renfro, but if you sit down with him and he asks you to do something, chances are you're going to do it. He is a phenomenal man, and I was very fortunate to be under him. He offered me his varsity receivers position, and okay, I'll jump in. And I kind of went in that head first. And then I spent 4 years with him, and he was the first person to tell me that he thought one day I would be a head coach. And I had never really thought about it to that extent at that point in my career, but I never forgot that. And for someone with his experience and in his position to kind of take me aside and pour into me the way he did during my 4 years, and really since then, like, he has been an integral part of who I am as a man and as a father to this very day. So I am eternally grateful for my time at Socastee High School. When that time ended, he helped me get my next job at Conway High School. I went and worked with Coach Chuck Jordan at Conway. I was his strength and conditioning coach and his running backs coach for a couple years there. Another great man who continues to pour into me. Spent 2 great years at Conway and learned a lot of football, learned a lot about just how to run a program and how to build relationships in the community and go about things the right way with Coach Jordan. Then my high school coach actually called me and said there was an opportunity up at York. And Coach Jimmy Wallace is a legend in the state. And when he calls, he's another one. He tells you he thinks it would be a good move for you. You listen. And so I headed up to York and I interviewed with Coach Bobby Carroll. And, I stayed at York for 3 years. We did some great things there, worked with some great guys, learned a lot of football. We played for a state championship in 2014, which is the first time they had done that in about 25, 30 years. I think 89 was the last year, 88 was the last year they played for a state championship. So did some phenomenal things, learned a lot about how to run a program in terms of just the administrative things from Coach Carroll, and worked with some great guys on the offensive side of the ball. Knox Baggett and his brother Grady Baggett were phenomenal in helping me in my progression and learning how to be more of a coach from a scheme standpoint. And then I went up to Connecticut for 4 years and braved the cold. And I worked with a great guy up there named Jason Bakulis, who I still consider a brother to this day. he poured into me, and he kind of let me coach. He was a defensive guy, and he brought me in and gave me the reins to the offense. He said, "Coach, go." And I had no idea what I was doing. So I leaned on those guys that I worked with previously, and we did some great things during my time in Connecticut. And then one of my good friends, I had the chance to go up to the college level in Perry Parks. He got up, former head coach at Ridgeview, and we were talking. And once we felt like Coach Howard was going to get the job at Ridgeview, I got in contact with Coach Howard and, informed him of what my goals and ambitions were. And, we hit it off right off the bat. Like, Derek is a great, great man, someone I would love for my kids to play for. He does things first class at Ridgeview through and through. He works as hard as anybody that I've ever seen on a day-to-day basis. So I learned a lot about just what it takes beyond the X's and O's to be successful on the high school level. And, Ridgeview's a special place with special people. And, they have a staff and a culture that a lot of people envy, and they're going to do some things that are phenomenal. And I was very blessed to be a part of that. And I'm very thankful for Coach Howard as a head coach for allowing me to pursue my dreams and my goals and never once questioning me. He pushed me towards some jobs that I didn't think I was ready for. So that process is one that's not for the weak of heart. You got to be willing to deal with no. And I heard no a few times, and that's okay. Those places just weren't looking for me. So I landed at Lamar, where, Dr. Marlon Thomas is the principal there, and Mr. Carlos Burgess is our athletic director, and they have been over the moon supportive, and I can't ask for a better starting point to enter year 17. So I'm extremely excited to be where I am today, and thankful for everyone that played a role in my life and my career to get me here.
Coach, how is that staff shaping up? Obviously, you mentioned you kind of school's out and there at Lamar. You get a little bit longer up here in the Midlands. Do you have everybody in place yet, or is it still a couple guys you're waiting on to get down there to the Silver Foxes with you?
So everybody about stayed on staff from the previous staff. Coach Burris left me some great, great coaches. Coach Allen Poole has been there for a very long time. Everybody jokes about him being there. I was able to bring in some guys. Coach Jimmy Woods is going to be in with our defensive line. He is a former head coach. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. He's won a state championship. He's coming up from Cross, where they played for the semifinals last year in 1A. Our defense coordinator is going to be Coach Jason Myers. He's coming up from Cross, where they had a very dominant defense last year. He led them. So I was able to kind of get the two of them in. But everyone else is staying put. Brian Scott's going to be our receivers coach and our defensive backs coach. Hayden Wilkes is a phenomenal offensive line coach. He's going to be a rising star in the state, young coach. Rob Joy, he's coached baseball and football at Lamar. He's a Lamar guy, so he's very informed with the community. And, we're just going to hit the ground rolling. But everybody has been phenomenal, like I said, so far. So we're set with our staff, and it's just a matter now with school ending, some guys being down at Cross and myself being in Columbia. Once we all are out of school and it's officially out for the summer, we'll be able to do some more things that we weren't able to do necessarily in the spring. But looking forward to it.
Coach, you spent the majority of your career on the offensive side of the ball. Will you continue to call plays for Lamar, or will you kind of hand that off to someone else? And what should we expect out of Coach Myers' defense?
I will call plays this year. I am open to bringing in someone maybe down the road to maybe groom and do some things that are still fit what I want to do offensively from a philosophical standpoint. But we'll remain aggressive on offense, do some things that we did at Ridgeview and some other places that I've been. But defensively, Coach Myers, we're going to be in a stack 3-3-5, and we're going to put as many athletes on the field as we can get. We won't be as big as some of the teams that have been in the past there, but we have athletes, and we're going to put those kids on the field and let them do what they do best, and that's not confuse them and make things simple so they can go out and play fast and do what they do.
And what are some of the philosophies you like to run on offense, schematically, things like that?
Yeah, when I first got hired, a guy down in Florence, he interviewed me and he asked me what was my favorite kind of offense, and I just told him one that scores. I have worked in a multitude of different offenses, a variety of different offenses. At Sox, we started out, I was in triple option. And I was a receivers coach in the triple option offense, so that tells you kind of how important my job was. I did a lot of stop blocking drills, but I've taken that philosophy because that's kind of the nuts and bolts of everything that we're doing. You know, we see a lot of guys talk about RPOs and things of that nature, but it all starts with the triple option. So you'll see some of those in what we do, some of those concepts in what we do. It'll just be presented in a different fashion. And, you know, when I was at York, we were in air raid, and, you know, we were throwing the ball all over the field. We probably scoring 45 points a game. You know, I think we set school records in passing yards in the season, passing yards in a career for the quarterback at the time. Also, we'll run some of those concepts. So it's going to be kind of a mesh of a lot of those things. And at Ridgeview, you know, this past year, we had a 400-yard passing night. We had a 300-yard rushing night. We had a 200-yard receiver. We had a 200-yard running back. So I'm comfortable doing what we need to do to win. But we will be physical. We will run the football. And if you load the box and we got the athletes outside that allow us to spread it out, we'll do that too. So, you know, what it comes down to is making sure that we have 11 people on the field that can do what we need to do to get the ball across the goal line.
Coach, you've had the pleasure of being around some, you know, legendary high school coaches, even back at Northwestern when Moose Wallace there, you mentioned, and, you know, Chuck Jordan and Coach Renfro. Who are some guys maybe outside of that you like to really watch, maybe at the college or pro level, and kind of pick things up from as well? And is there one of those guys that really has molded you more than the others, you feel like?
And, you know, I watch the college game. I appreciate the college game, but I really spend a lot of my time trying to study the better high school coaches around. One that I've been building a relationship with over the last couple of years has been Jerel, who he won a state championship at Wilson. And we actually had a Zoom the other night for about an hour and some change, and we talked another 30 minutes when that Zoom call ended. But Coach Page has been pouring into me beyond what I deserve over the last couple of years, and I can't appreciate him more for what he's doing as an older coach, making sure that the next generation of coaches comes through and we're able to do things the right way, not only from a scheme standpoint, but just making sure we're taking care of kids and, you know, keeping the main thing. But, you know, college-wise, you know, everybody, the Lincoln Rileys of the world, you know, he kind of fits what I like to do schematically. But I love watching, you know, Paul Johnson when he was at Georgia Tech, and, you know, the triple option stuff again, something that I fought. If you talk to Coach Renfro right now, he'd tell you there was many meetings where I just come in as a young 22, 23-year-old coach and say, can we just throw the ball 10 times a week? You know, Coach, I think we could throw it. And, you know, they'd ask me, well, Coach, what do you want to throw? I don't care. Just throw it. But, you know, I learned a great deal from them. So now I'm able to appreciate the service academies and, you know, watching them and what they do. And because it takes a lot of great execution and precision to run that offense and do it on a high level. And so when you watch what they do, then you kind of translate it to the high school level into things that you see schematically and you make it fit. Those are things I really appreciate. Now, on the pro level, you know, when things, I heard Coach Fiddler say the other day that, you know, things are kind of even. Like there's, you know, everybody's got great athletes, everybody's got great talent. So the margins for errors are smaller. I mean, I had a cousin who played on the NFL level for about 12, 13 years, and I've been able to watch some games with him, and what he sees and how he views the game, it's crazy. You know, he played with Troy Polamalu, and he talks about how those guys are able to see certain tendencies and how you line up and how you do this and how you do that. So taking that knowledge and his knowledge of the game and trying to narrow it down to what I can get a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid to do, you know, it's something I really enjoy. So when we get out to these clinics and I'm able to talk to guys that have been doing it at a high level and doing it better than I can ever imagine doing it, I just try to pick one thing from them. So it's not really one guy that I study necessarily. It's just, you know, how do you go about teaching this? How do you run a meeting? How do you, you know, get your kids to come on time? Like, what do you do to make the day-to-day functions go? Because, you know, when it's 11 on 11 and the lights are on, the kids are going to play. But how can I get them there, and how can I get them, you know, the attention to detail to be where I need it to be so they can play at the highest level possible?
Well, Coach, you the name Paul Johnson instantly triggered some PTSD in me as a lifelong Clipper fan. So we need to move on from that. But I want to ask about your experience going to Norwich Free Academy up in Connecticut. You spent your time mostly in South Carolina. You played in South Carolina. You started coaching in South Carolina. What was that experience like, and how quickly did you want to come back home from that weather up there?
Man, so I got up there. My fiance is originally from Connecticut. So, you know, we had reached a point in our relationship where we kind of had to make some decisions and make some moves. and I'm not afraid to take a risk. So, I jumped in, and up to Connecticut I went. And it's a little bit different up there. Down south, football is kind of what we do. That's our calling card. High school football is it brings the cows in, so to speak. But up there, it's still important. It's not as high of a priority, but there are very good coaches. They have to do a lot with a lot less. From a resources standpoint, they're still fielding 200 kids in the program or 100 kids in the program, whatever they have. The budgets are smaller. You might not have the practice facilities that are down here, or you're not going to have the practice facilities that are down here. They don't have, the classes and things that we have that we take for granted. So I really was able to learn how to make the most of what I have and be as efficient as possible. And so that time with Coach Bakulas and the program up there, I was able to bring in some of my ideas that we had, I've been a part of down here, and take them up there. And we were able to break the school record for, signing kids to go to school. My last year up there, right before the pandemic started, we got 13 kids recruited, and I think 8 or 9 of them signed to go play college ball, which was, outstanding. That's what we're in it for. And we, we won some games, and we broke some records and did some things of that nature too. But I'll always remember that place for being what it was and believing in me, and Coach McCool for giving me a shot. And he was another one that kind of poured in and said, when your time comes, you're gonna be good at this. So I'm trying to recruit him down here. He's got 3 sons.
Nice.
And Coach McCool is about 6'4", 230 pounds. He's a big guy. So if I can get his sons to come on down here, I'll be in good shape in about 15 years.
Love it.
So, Coach, you guys just wrapped up spring ball. I know it's always kind of tough at the 1A level because you got guys playing a bunch of other sports, but how did that go for you, and what were you able to learn about your team?
So the things that, some first-year head coaches have to come in and do from a culture standpoint, that's the word everybody uses now. I didn't have to do. These kids know what work is. They expect to win. They were at practice. As soon as track ended, those kids came from the state track meet to football practice the next day, and I had to hold them out of the spring game. We tried to put one together, and we held off. We didn't go that first week of May because we still had baseball and track regionals winding up. So we stayed out of that just to kind of let those kids finish their season and see where we're going to stand with playoffs from that standpoint. But as soon as their seasons ended, they were coming by, hey, Coach, can I get my equipment? Or they text me, Coach, our season's over. I'm not going to qualify for the region meet or the state meet or whatever the case was. They were ready to go. So, we had good numbers. I was pleased with what we were able to do, getting things in. The transition to get coaches in there was another battle that we fought, but, we got through it. And like I said, the kids, they just went. So I was very pleased. We got out with, no injuries, and they worked. We went about 2 hours every day. I was making that drive in the afternoon, and the kids, all they know is work. They know what the expectations are. People get on the, you sure you want to take this job? And everybody wants to win. Not everybody has a realistic chance to do that. These kids grow up expecting to win. So I tell people, Lamar is a culture. It's not necessarily what the expectations are. It speaks for itself. The expectations are what they are. Lamar is the culture. Lamar is actually the standard. And, there's a handful of schools in this state that can claim what Lamar has been able to do over the last 20, 25 years. So I haven't had to necessarily babysit. We've been able to kind of push the intensity a little bit over the last week and a half, and they've responded. So I'm very pleased with what they've done and with the efforts that they're putting forward.
Coach, the Silver Foxes graduated some big-time players like Quan Toney and Tyler McManus, but you guys seem to reload every single year. Who are some players that you identified in the spring that we should be on the lookout for in the fall?
Kendall Walton is one of our offensive line prospects. He's a class of 25 guy. He has been getting some calls here lately. He's a big guy. His brother plays down at Coastal. So he'll be one to watch over the next 2 years. Very excited for what he brings from a size standpoint, just the physicality that he plays with. Hard-working kid, so he's got a very bright future. At quarterback, we'll have a rising sophomore, Zoe Pierce, who I'm very excited about. He's a very smart young man. He is taking everything in. He's kind of just hitting the ground running. And his attention to detail at such a young age, who I'm really impressed with. he's always asking to do a little bit extra after practice. From a receiver standpoint, we return Tavis Alford, which he played at a high level last year, played receiver and DB, and I expect for him to also be a high performer for us. We didn't have him in the spring because he was also a track guy, so he had to go, and I think he was in a long jump for the state track meet. But Travian McPhail is a guy at running back, and he'll play some safety for us. I look for him to make a big splash when things start rolling in the fall. And there's a host of other kids, like you said. Lamar it finds a way. It just continues to reload, and I'm trying to figure out how. Because when you look at the numbers, they got like 270 kids in the building, and they churn these kids out, and the kids they love it. And like I said before, there's not many places that can lay claim to the things that the school's been able to accomplish and this community has been able to accomplish. And I'm just blessed and happy and excited to be a part of it.
Coach, you mentioned that. I mean, looking back at the Lamar history, you guys, you got all the Hamlins coming through. You got Levon Kirkland. I mean, just stud after stud after stud. And you mentioned one of the more storied programs in the state. Does that add any pressure, knowing the expectations are always to be lower state, upper state final, state championship winner? What does that add to your plate, really?
I'm not going to say it adds pressure necessarily. I grew up in Rock Hill. I graduated from
Good point.
Yeah. So I told them, I'm you. Like, I grew up thinking that it's normal to win a state championship. It's normal to go play in the semifinals. Like, we expect to be playing, we call it the Turkey Bowl back home. We expect to be playing on Black Friday. And you grow up thinking that. And, it was out of the norm to be at home in the first or second round. Like, that was a bad season. And, not everyone has the opportunity to play deep into the playoffs or has the opportunity to expect to be playing deep into the playoffs. And so, like I said before, that those are things I'm not having to teach. It's just work. Like, do the work, whatever it's going to take to get there. And those kids are locked in. They understand what those expectations are. So I don't have to put any more pressure on them than already exists. I asked them today in the weight room, who has a brother, uncle, a cousin, or even a dad at this point that has a ring? And about 70% of them raise their hand. So, it's not something that I have to add on their plate. It's not any pressure necessarily that I feel. I was aware of what it was when I stepped into it. And I told them during my interview, I grew up in a place that's very similar to this. A 10-win season without a deep run in the playoffs is a bad season. And, it is what it is. It's a lot of pressure for some people. But I tell them success is also not meant for everybody. So we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do on a day-to-day basis to earn the right to be playing deep, like those teams have in the past. And so as long as we do our part, during this time of the year, when the ball is kicked off in August, we'll be ready to go.
So, Coach, you're breaking in a new offense. You got new schemes and all that, and a young quarterback. Do you plan on going on any 7-on-7s this summer, or you look to refine that kind of in Lamar, or wait till Jamboree's fall camp?
We're going to participate in 7-on-7s out at Dillon. Coach Roller actually reached out to me after, I accepted the job, and I've known Coach Roller for quite some time, too. He was down at Coastal when I was down there. He's a great guy, so he extended an invite down to Dillon. We're still got some things in the mix, so I'm trying to see if we can get to a college 7-on-7 to compete with some of the bigger schools that'll be around. And then, we're going to do, I think, an FCA 7-on-7. So we've got about 5 or 6 lined up right now. And we're going to go out and compete and do what we need to do and make sure the biggest thing is make sure we're in shape and, make sure the kids are grasping the scheme and playing at a level that we're asking them to play at and just giving us the effort that's going to be required for us to get done what we need to get done. So we'll definitely do that and we'll, dot our I's and cross our T's and try to build some depth, the one-legged level where you got kids playing both ways and making sure that when you do go out there, if somebody goes down, you got to be kind of versatile and you got to be able to think fast and the next kid has to know what's going on. So, that's kind of different for me coming from a bigger school setting where, we go out to practice and I'm practicing offense for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Now I get the offense for about an hour and then all of them go play defense. But it's been fun to kind of get my teeth into and learn. Like I said, I'm blessed to have a staff around me that understands what the requirements are on the 1A level. And so, I'm enjoying it right now and we're going to have some fun over summer. we're going to do some things outside of the box as well to kind of make sure the kids are having fun as we go through this part of the year.
Coach, it's harder and harder to get these kids recruited sometimes these days with the transfer portal and that stuff, all that stuff going on. How important are some of those relationships that you've built over your time with the college recruiters and coaches?
Man, it is vital. The portal, I'm not going to say it's killing recruiting. It's definitely making it a little bit more difficult for a high school kid. But I think what's kind of happening is a domino effect where, a kid that might be a fringe Power 5 kid or a fringe Group of 5 is now falling down to, the FCS level or even the Division II level. But that kid is maybe allowed or has the opportunity to play at an earlier stage than if he had gone to a Power 5 and maybe received a red shirt or, what have you. But having those relationships and understanding that the guys that do call or that I've met, years ago, trust me when I say, hey, you need to check this kid out. He definitely come and help you out. That's important. It'll continue to be important. But I try not to dwell too much on what we can't control within the portal, and just tell the kids, if you perform in the classroom, number one, you're going to open up some doors. So as long as you take care of the classroom, when you perform on the field, everything else will fall in place the way it's meant to be. So I encourage kids to dream big. Everybody wants to go to the Alabamas, Ohio States of the world, but it's okay to go and get a free education at a Newberry or a Furman or a Wofford as well. Because at the end of the day, if you don't walk across the stage with student loans, you won in my book. So just trying to keep them focused on the job that's at hand, and that classroom is a big part of that. So when those college coaches do come around and they're calling, when I can put out some good transcripts, then I start getting big. Like, oh, okay, coach. Like I look more into him because now he's got to weigh it against some guys that might be some fringe academic kids. So if we can kind of climb the totem pole, so to speak, in a different kind of manner, we'll do some outside of the box things, and we'll take it a day at a time. But it is what it is. The portal's crazy. It's not going to calm down anytime soon. It's a part of what we have to do. So as long as we're building those relationships, like you said, I think the recruiting side it takes care of itself.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
All right, Coach, you said you've been listening, so we're going to transition to some easier ones. So you should have this one on your radar. I'm a foodie, so I always ask this question. I'm going to cut you some slack because you're not fully in Lamar yet. So I'll let you go back to home. Give me some areas to eat. I need some restaurants in the Columbia area when we go down there for some games.
All right. So everybody knows about Rush's. It's kind of the classic. If you come to Columbia, you got to have a burger from Rush's. Okay. We step outside of our comfort zone. Well, I'm not afraid to try some things. We go down a place down on Garner's Ferry called Kairos. They do like Mediterranean Greek food. Pretty good. It's down in that AC Flora, Lower Richland area. It's pretty good down there. I'm trying to think what else. There's a barbecue spot up here off of Hardscrabble Road. I think it's called Bubba's Barbecue. And every time I roll by there, he's got the thing smoking. You can't go wrong there. And then my kids at Ridgeview, they kept U.S. Wings and Deli in business. So if you ever just want some wings, you definitely got to go to U.S. Wings and Deli. But there's a restaurant in Lamar. So you guys come to a game downtown Lamar, Tina's Cafe. She makes very, very good wings. I think our kids probably keep her in business at Lamar. They get any time in between that bell and practice, they're gonna all go down to Tina's and get some wings. So you guys come on down and head to Tina's and come on up to a game.
I'll put it on the list. No doubt about it, Coach. So we mentioned, you played at Northwestern, you've coached in the Grand Strand area, the Midlands area. Maybe what's maybe one of the coolest or a couple of the coolest venues or atmospheres you've got to play in your time here in the state, or coach in as well, I guess.
Wow. So as a player, my junior year, we were in the old Region 2 4A. So, it was Gaffney, Burns, Spartanburg, that gauntlet, Dorman, the old Dorman before they built the new Taj Mahal they have out there now. So I actually played in the old reservation, and that place is everything that they said it is. I grew up going to games there, so I couldn't wait to actually take the field out there. And it is everything and more. It's sat down in kind of that little hole in the the fog or the smoke or whatever would kind of just sit on the field that was behind the stadium. And they had the totem pole up on the hill out there, and man, everything that Gaffney football is, that place had it, and it was rocking and rolling. I think one of the coolest atmospheres I've been a part of. I was at Conway at Doug Shaw. We played Myrtle Beach. You know, that Victory Bell game. That's a very, very big rivalry there. That was a lot of fun to go and be a part of. And actually, I enjoyed. We played Greenwood for the Upstate Championship when I was at York, down at Pinky Bab Stadium. So playing there was very cool. They had the new press box down there, and just another historic venue with a great storied program. So to go around the state, like I said, I've been around a few areas now as I've been into it, but it's some great venues around here. Actually going up and coaching at Spartanburg last year in the playoffs at Ridgeview was very cool. That state-of-the-art facility is something to behold. So if you guys haven't been up there, you definitely got to go check out a game at the new Spartanburg. But yeah, I've been lucky, man. Burns back in the day, when I was coming through Nixon Field and they put the Jumbotron out there, it was always a big deal. So, they still got it going up there with Coach Shaw, and I'm sure those guys, that region is what it is. It's a gauntlet. It hadn't changed in years. So, any game up there is always a good one. In the Columbia area, you got, Ridgeview does a very good job with the atmosphere and the game day atmosphere. So, you really can't go wrong across the state. If you stop in, there's a big game on tap, you won't be disappointed in my experience.
So, Coach, to wrap this thing up, what are some of your goals for the 2023 season for this version of the Silver Foxes?
Man, everybody says win championships, and that's one thing that just kind of goes unsaid in my book. So, I don't know if you guys ever been down to Paris Island, but if you go down to Paris Island, I was able to get down there for a teacher's workshop a few years ago, and there's a sign. It used to be on a water tower, and it just says simply, "We make Marines." So for Lamar, and this will be from now until, hopefully I don't get ran off out of there, but we're just going to make men. And that's the goal. That's the program goal. There'll be a goal every year. We make men. We build men. And that's going to be in the classroom, off the field, in the community, fathers, husbands, you name it. When a kid comes out of our program, you're going to know that he is a quality young man. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've heard from veteran coaches, talking to Coach Wallace on my way down there for my press conference. He told me one thing, and that was simply take care of the kids. And, pouring everything that we have into them on a day-to-day basis and make sure they understand that football is just a tool. That ball's going to go flat one day, and we're going to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that you are set when your time with this game is done. So that is the goal, and that'll always be my goal. And if we're doing things the right way, those championships will come when it's time for them to come. And the kids are starting to understand that, and they, we don't have to talk about championships. We talk about the process. And, that Coach Proctor over at Ridgeview on the track team, they trust the process. So we're fully invested in that process of making men and, understanding what it takes to become a man and the championship habits that championship men have. And, eventually we'll get to the end of that road, and hopefully, you can do an interview with me in December or January next year, and we got something to celebrate.
We look forward to it, Coach. No doubt about it. This has been great. Definitely want everyone to go check out Coach Burris and Silver Foxes on Twitter and Facebook, et cetera. They do a great job posting highlights and schedules and player updates. Definitely follow them on there. Like I mentioned, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera, at Movin Chains, movinchains.com, our website there, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Movin The Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Jerel, anything else for Coach? We'll let him go tonight.
First, congratulations, Coach. You definitely worked hard for this opportunity, and it definitely appears that the Lamar Silver Fox, administrators got the correct man for the job here. Looking forward to what you do as you begin your head coaching career. I know you're going to be great. Just thank you for the opportunity today to take some time with us and talk ball. It's great to hear your story, and really looking forward to the next chapters.
I appreciate it. And make sure you guys put us on the list. Come down and visit the game this year.
We'll do it, Coach. We'll swing by this summer and get to shake your hand and meet you in person. But I really enjoyed it, and best of luck this year, all right?
All right, appreciate it.